It begins in silence. A train crosses a frozen border under heavy guard, its windows blacked out, its destination kept secret. Inside, the leader of one of the world's most isolated regimes is on his way to meet another ruler, equally determined to defy the West. Cameras aren't allowed, but whispers escape. Deals for weapons, food, and promises of loyalty. At the same time, in Moscow, generals review battle maps. In Beijing, officials draft economic lifelines. And in capitals across the world, one question grows louder. Are China, Russia, and North Korea quietly building a new power bloc, one that could change the future balance of the planet? On the surface, these nations have little in common. China is an economic giant. Russia clings to the remnants of its empire, and North Korea is a hermit kingdom trapped in the past. Yet together, they share something deeper, a rejection of the Western order. This strange brotherhood is fueled not by friendship but by shared enemies. Each has faced sanctions, military pressure, and international condemnation. For Russia, it's the wars that left it isolated. For China, it's the trade battles and accusations over the South China Sea and Taiwan. For North Korea, it's decades of pariah status, cut off from most of the world. Their alliance is less about love and more about survival. But history reminds us, survival pacts often spark the fiercest coalitions. So if survival is the glue, what happens when desperation grows stronger than trust? The lifeblood of this alliance runs in three streams: weapons, oil, and food. Russia, drained by ongoing conflict, looks to North Korea for a steady flow of artillery shells. Crude but plentiful, they keep Russian cannons firing. In return, North Korea gains something it cannot produce alone: fuel for its tanks, wheat for its hungry citizens, and perhaps even advanced technology to upgrade its creaking military. China, meanwhile, plays a different game. It doesn't need wheat from Pyongyang or missiles from Moscow. What it offers instead is the one thing both Russia and North Korea crave most: access to the world economy. Through secret shipping routes, gray zone banks, and informal networks, China helps them breathe in a world trying to suffocate them with sanctions. But here lies the danger. Weapons, oil, and bread are not just trade, they are lifelines. And when lifelines are tied together, cutting one may drag all three nations into conflict. Which begs the question, how far are they willing to go to protect each other's survival? To understand this moment, you must step back into the shadows of the past. In the mid-20th century, another triangle of power shook the world. Back then, it was the Soviet Union, China, and North Korea, bound by ideology and war. They fought together in Korea, trained each other's armies, and dreamed of a communist future. But that alliance cracked. China and the Soviet Union turned from brothers to rivals, each accusing the other of betraying the revolution. North Korea, left stranded, became the paranoid, secretive state we see today. Now, decades later, the ghosts of that old partnership rise again. This time, it isn't ideology, but necessity pulling them close. The question is, will this triangle hold longer than the last? Or are we watching history repeat itself, with betrayal already waiting in the wings? Every alliance is measured, not just by words, but by actions. And the actions of this group send clear messages. When North Korean missiles streak across the sky, Russia and China block harsher punishments at the United Nations. When Russia demands drones, North Korea obliges, even as Western intelligence leaks proof of the shipments. When China faces trade bans, Russia redirects oil pipelines eastward, keeping Beijing's factories running. Together, these moves form a pattern: coordinated defiance. It's not that they march in lockstep, but that each provides cover for the others. They test how far the West will go and how much it will tolerate before striking back harder. And yet, one question remains unanswered. What happens if one of these tests goes too far? If a missile lands in the wrong place? If an oil tanker sparks a blockade? If a cyber attack cripples the wrong network? Will the others come rushing to its defense, or will this fragile alliance crack under pressure? For all its show of unity, the alliance is riddled with tension. Russia resents being the junior partner, forced to rely on North Korea for supplies. China fears being dragged into reckless wars that threaten its trade empire. And North Korea, always suspicious, fears betrayal as much as it craves support. Economically, they are far from equals. China dwarfs both Russia and North Korea, giving it silent control. Politically, their interests diverge. Russia seeks territorial dominance, North Korea seeks regime survival, and China seeks global influence without direct confrontation. These goals overlap but do not align perfectly. Even now, quiet signs of distrust emerge. Russian officials whisper about unreliable North Korean shipments. Chinese strategists warn against Moscow's unpredictability, and Pyongyang watches both nervously, guarding against the possibility of abandonment. The cracks are faint, but history shows that faint cracks can widen quickly under pressure, and pressure is rising. The rise of this alliance is not just about its members, it's about the world reacting to it. For the West, the fear is not that China, Russia, and North Korea become best friends, but that they coordinate just enough to outmaneuver rivals. A world where Russia supplies raw power, North Korea provides expendable weapons, and China anchors the economy would create a formidable triangle. Already, military planners in Washington, Seoul, and Tokyo prepare for worst-case scenarios. European leaders debate how much more pressure they can apply to Moscow without driving it fully into Beijing's embrace. Smaller nations, caught in between, quietly ask, if the global order fractures, where should we stand? The gamble for the alliance is simple. By joining forces, they hope to survive isolation, but the gamble for the rest of us is greater. If the world divides into competing blocs, cooperation on climate, trade, or even preventing nuclear escalation becomes nearly impossible, which leaves us with the question no one can yet answer. Are we watching the birth of a new superpower coalition, or the first sparks of a global fracture that could consume us all? A train crosses a frozen border, a pipeline shifts east, a missile arcs silently across the sky. Each moment on its own feels small, but together they form a pattern, threads weaving a new fabric of power. China, Russia, and North Korea may not trust each other fully. They may not share the same dreams. Yet their shared defiance of the West has bound them closer than at any time in recent history. Whether this alliance will endure or collapse under the weight of its own contradictions remains uncertain. But one truth is clear. In an age of shifting power, even fragile coalitions can tip the balance of the world. And as this uneasy brotherhood grows bolder, the rest of us are left to wonder, what will the cost be when the scales finally tip?